quick, tell us how, quick 90 seconds, how you got into the industry, how you came to FFL.
Yeah, so I got into the industry. I'm actually fresh out of college. I had lost my mom my junior year of college. And when I had applied for the job, I actually didn't understand that it was insurance at all. It was almost a bait and switch. So essentially, I was going to people's homes with like child safe kits and, then pitching them insurance.
Yeah.
So you can imagine
Sounds
that.
familiar.
Exactly. Yeah. So you can imagine that can only last for so long, and you can only feel good about yourself doing that for so long. So I had left there, and I was with the previous IMO, and I got started at a whopping 60%. I built a team, worked my way up a little bit, left at about a 90%. And my reason mainly for leaving was it's just like the example of like, if you can work at, Target, you can work at Walmart, and, Walmart's going to pay you $10 and Target's going to pay you 20 for doing the same thing. Like, does it
Right.
actually make sense?
Right.
So that's how I came into FFL, through a LinkedIn message, actually, a LinkedIn battle, I should say. However, I'm very thankful that happened.
Yeah, 100%. It's so funny. Obviously, we're not going to use any names here, but I'm field training another agent today, and we both came from the same first company, and then the company you went to is the company he's coming from into our industry. That's so funny. And so you've been in this industry for how many years had you been in our industry before you came to FFL?
So I was in the industry, let's see, for about 3.5 years before Family First Life, almost 4.
Okay. So obviously the first company you were with, it was a real bait and switch, model. And then the next company you were working leads. So you
Yeah.
were already familiar. So was there, besides the comp, what other changes did you feel there were coming from that company to family? Were there any other notable changes?
Yeah, so the biggest things too were just like kind of seeing where the actual other IMO was making their money, and the fact that they were making a lot of money off of the leads, and then there was only one lead type, essentially ended up bothering me over time, because I'm like, there's only a certain amount of leads here, so when these run out, then what?
Right.
And it's almost kind of like picking favorites, so to say. And I will say I was a favorite. However, at the same time, we don't know when that's going to change, and that shouldn't dictate our business. We should dictate our business as independent contractors. So
Sure.
I kind of, I just felt like I truly wasn't actually being viewed as independent. I was being viewed as an employee of an employer who was basically, I was paying the IMO to work there, and that just doesn't make sense.
Sure. So no, yeah, especially when you say it like that, because I mean, obviously the comp just makes sense, because if you can get paid, more or less for doing the exact same job, of course you're going to pick more. But then you really appreciated the multitude and the different lead vendors we used, because that you felt like that gave you more control over your own business.
Exactly.
So cool. So how long have you been with Family First Life now?
So now I've actually been with Family First Life for almost 3 years, which is actually crazy to say. But what I will say is, coming from those other two insurance companies, I was very, very hesitant. I actually wouldn't start here, and I was going to leave the industry until I actually sat down with Sean and met him, and shook his hand, and felt like everything was actually in the right place. And at that time, he was in Connecticut, I was in Mass. It all made sense. So it really was also just like a leadership thing, if we don't have
Sure.
the right leadership in place, and we all probably know on here or have heard it at other IMOs, when essentially, I don't like when people talk bad about people, because that means they're going to talk about me. That's how I
Sure.
always do it, right?
Right.
So, like, every single conference call was about like basically what Family First Life is doing and why it's wrong. So it almost drew
Yeah.
attention. It was like a commercial, and that's what it ended up turning into. And really
Sure.
just kind of seeing that and being able to talk about it helped me kind of transition properly. And I didn't trust the business, so I didn't start growing the business until about a year ago is when I really actually started building a team. And I had a couple people direct that just kind of came over with me, but I was really tainted. So long answer to your question, but I was extremely tainted, and I just started building a year ago because I was like, okay, I can trust this system. It's working for everybody. Why not me?
Sure. Sure. Wow. Wow. That's, you said so much there that is so good that I feel like people that aren't from the industry or don't have the same experiences, it would go right over their heads. I mean, the first thing that you said that really resonated with me, and you were ending there with it, is when I came, I felt so taken advantage of by the company that I had worked at. You know, when I learned what the override was, when I learned how they kept renewals, when I learned all this like shady stuff, and on top of the shady stuff I knew that made me uncomfortable, like the bait and switch tactics that, like you said, you don't feel good about yourself. Like when I came here and I sat with like my first final expense lead, and like I remember that like she's like open the door, she's like, "You're the insurance guy, right?" I'm like, "Yeah." Like she knows why I'm here. That like blew my mind. Like, because it always been like, "Oh, I'm here to set up your benefits," or "I'm here to give you this free thing," and then like, "Oh, I'm also here to sell you insurance," you know, and it always felt dirty, you know. And so, and it took me a while. Like I feel like for the longest time, and you know, I really haven't been here that long, I guess almost a year and a half now. But I feel like for the longest time, I kept waiting to get stabbed in the back. And I
Yeah.
don't even know if I've ever even said this to Ivan. And nothing against Ivan. Ivan has been phenomenal upline from day one. But I always, like in the back of my head, I kind of had my eyes open, you know, and my ears open. I was like, Ivan's gonna try to mess me over at some point, you know, because that's what I had experienced from this industry before. So it was a really deep, almost spiritual decision for you to come here, right? You had to meet Sean Mike, you had to like get a feel of the company, you had to, and something you said too, and that's a reason we got some other agents from our previous company. We didn't reach out to them, but they were saying, "Hey, block Gabe and Caleb on social media and don't talk to them." And of course, that, you know, there's no such thing as bad publicity. And they're like, "Well, what are they doing?" And so they were reaching out to us. So man, so wow. So you, but it took you a while. So it took you about 2 years of personal production before you were finally like, "Hey, I'm gonna rest my hat here. I want to build a business here." So let's talk about that. First thing, what was your personal production like for those 2 years? Did you hit the ground running? Did it take you a while to ramp up?
Yeah, so at my previous IMO, I was issuing, I issued both years over 400 grand. And then my first year at FFL, I kind of almost again took that step back, which was silly. And I issued about 315,000. And then last year I issued over like 456, I believe. So it just shows kind of the trust that I started to have in Family First Life over time. And now it's
Sure.
like, I'm kicking myself in the butt saying like, I wish I had just trusted from the beginning, you know?
Sure, sure. Wow. I think you might be one of the first top producers I've talked to. You came to FFL, a Hall of Fame producer. That's pretty crazy to think about. That's pretty cool. And so what was it? So I guess that's my big question. After 2 years, obviously you really, you know, kind of dipped your toe in the water. You kind of saw, and then you're like, "Okay, let me go full steam and then let me build an agency." What was it for you finally where you're like, "I trust this place, I trust these people, I trust this system that I really want to start building here"?
Yeah, so Paul McLean always talks to me about how there's only a couple of moments in your life where you're really going to actually make a decision that's going to like truly change like the trajectory of where you're going. And that can, he's like, that can happen when, you're 10 or when, you're 50 or you're 80. And I feel like I really had a breakthrough moment. Just speaking with Paul, I mean, I'm sure all of you guys have heard from him, at least on a call, if not, personally. And it's like, how can you not trust Paul McLean? And really what
Right.
he started to do, really what he started to do is challenge me in an appropriate manner. He started to
Mm,
challenge me with, "Hey, let's get some more leads in your hands. Hey, how about you grab an office? Hey, what does staff look like? Hey, what about how about some recruiting leads? What are you using to hire?" So he continued to challenge and challenge and challenge. And as he was challenging me and it was working, I was like, okay, like I can trust this, like, let me dive in. Another big factor when I really did start to trust the system, because my sister works with me and she works a lot more on the back office side and just like kills it. But she was like, I don't like, she sat down with Sean Mike and was like, I still don't trust the company. We have a joint bank account that I intentionally get all my deposits, and she's like, I still don't trust the company. However, when I started to grab more leads, I was like, actually taking, like, looking at this, like, this is my business. I'm like, it's now or never. I'm like, I'm 28 years old. This time I was like 27. I'm 27 years old. I've been in this industry, for a little bit now. Like, let's do it, or let's just like be all in or get out. And I think that that's the mentality that like we need to have. And sometimes it's hard, building a team, you're in the field, you're busting it, like, but we've all been there. And as long as you can just keep it moving, it's going to play out. It's like when Paul was like, hey, get more leads. And my production increased, right then and there. No, but it increased over time, right? It increased, in a few weeks. That if that's delayed gratification, then I got, you know what I mean? And same thing, with an office and staff. And one big thing that changed, and I'm sure you guys, do this, is dial team. Like COVID had hit and all that had happened. And I got my sister on board with me to, and she was like, wow, this is awesome. And I'm like, I know, I've been trying to tell you for, a little while now. COVID had hit, and, everything was kind of weird. But at the same time, I was like, you know what, like, what else do I have to do right now? Like, what else could I go do? I'm 27. I was stupid when I was younger, but like, what else could I really have went and done? And now in hindsight, I say this in like, the most respectful way. I don't mean it demeaning. COVID is an awful thing. However, it's like, I'm thankful in terms of from a business stance that it happened, because it put me in check and it allowed me to take Paul's challenges seriously, follow up on them and say, hey, what's next? Hey, what's next? He was just leading, guiding me and directing me. And I was like, okay, now I'm willing to trust him to follow.
Sure. Well, you really just gave us all a textbook about how to coach and build, I think anybody, but especially a top producer, because obviously you came into this industry knowing what to do. You had already been a top producer, sold 400,000 in a year. You had already had a team a little bit at a previous IMO, right? And so you had already done that. And so you had come here, and the reasons that you weren't building, they weren't because you didn't know how to do it, or because, maybe even maybe a little bit lacked the motivation, kind of like you said, like COVID put you in check and kind of put aligns you a little bit better. But you had a manager and a friend in Paul, and someone who saw your potential, and like you said, was continually respectfully challenging you. And something I've discovered, and I'm sure you just as well, and any manager, is you really can't make anybody do anything, right? Like, it's kind of that old, probably first quarter in a cartoon, when the student is ready, the master appears kind of thing. But you can just give people the info, and when they're ready, they're gonna do it. So Paul didn't dismiss you. He didn't get angry at you. He didn't write you off because you weren't doing what he felt you should be or could be doing. He was just giving you what you needed. And when you were ready, like, all that stuff, like, it's kind of like he'd been stacking on top of you. It just fell and it clicked into place for you. And like, kind of sounds like COVID was really that thing for you. It kind of made you focus, made you decide, hey, am I doing this or not? And it was just like all that work from that time, maybe years at this point, of him saying some of this stuff to you really clicked in. Is that right?
Absolutely. It definitely did. And one other thing I will say that, Paul would do is, at the beginning, Paul would challenge. When I didn't take that challenge and I didn't do that step, Paul wasn't calling me 100 times saying, hey, are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? It was me saying, like, basically, hey, coach, put me in. And then I was saying, what do I need to do next? Because I think sometimes we have this like expectation, And this can go kind of two ways of, we need to be like the magic as like somebody's upline. But like you said, when, if the person's not ready, no matter what you say, they're not going to move. And what Paul's really taught me is, you can't, like you said, you can't make people move, and you can't, talking to a wall isn't going to help you have, like grow your business. So when I was ready, Paul was, all in, and he was like there for me, supporting me every single day, day in, day out. But when I wasn't doing a whole lot, Paul wasn't like, hey, what's going on? Let's talk for 30 minutes, So he was just making sure that he used his time appropriately as well. And in hindsight, I respect that so much.
Yeah. Wow. What you said was gold for anyone, not just coaching a top producer, but anybody. I know you got to meet Joanne Basso at the conference in New Jersey there. You guys are so similar. I'm sure you guys would be like, you guys are just both killers and driven and we're super talented. And I was literally just having her because she's new in this industry and struggling to know, how do I push agents? Like, I got some people who are driven and I got some people not as much. And I think a lot of managers struggle building a business. Like, where do I draw the line? How do I use my time effectively? And you just told us right there, you give people the right info, but you're not hounding them. Like, you need people who are driven, who are ready, and who are coming to you. So all Paul did, he gave you what he knew you needed to hear. But if you weren't taking it in, he wasn't going to push it. He let you come at your own pace. And that made it so much more powerful later when you finally were ready, that you knew Paul had what you needed.
Exactly.
That's so cool. So, okay. So transitioning into that. So year ago, whatever it was, you decide, it clicks and you're like, okay, I've been a top producer. I know how to do this. Let's build. What did that look like for you? How did you start implementing those steps?
Yeah, so the first thing that I did was essentially involving my sister was huge, because I felt like, okay, I can write a ton of business. I can issue 50 grand a month, but at the same time, I want to make sure that, I'm new to this like recruiting thing. So my sister kind of had my back there, but a lot of the things that I changed would be staff, an office, and resources. Like, those are the three main things that I feel like can really kind of change your business when you're trying to actually build a team and get involved in it. And the thing is it's really uncomfortable. And I used to spend so much time. Like, my sister is like a beast hiring. I will give her that. Like, and she would hire like 10 people, of which, like, we all kind of know some of them are going to move, some of them aren't, and some of them are going to be really excited. And I would take my time in the field, instead of talking to new people or the people that are actually moving, I would talk to all of them for like a long time. Like, not like, I would have like an hour conversation with, Corey, who's not moving. And then, 3 hours later, talk to him again for 20 minutes about like, how to log into America. It's like,
Right.
So just kind of really allocating time, protecting my time. And I think we all have to learn that lesson differently, because I think everybody's different in terms of how much time are you actually wasting, what's effective for you, what's not. But I realized I was wasting a lot of time with the wrong people. And you know what I realized as well was I was the wrong people to Paul coming in. And that's okay, because the wrong person doesn't always have to be and stay the wrong person, but they're just not ready at that point in time. So really just the biggest things were just getting an office, staff, and now more staff, and just like focusing, it's not all about you. I literally have a sticky note in my, on my whiteboard in my office, in my bathroom, on my bathroom mirror, that says, it's not all about you. Because if you want to grow a team, it's not all about you. Like, you might be, in a home where you might be doing ABC, but if, your brand new agent who you told, call from the home is in the home, you need to take the call, So really just kind of also learning how to not be selfish. I think that selfish is a strong word, but I think a lot of us are too scared to say, I'm selfish. And selfish isn't always bad. If you want to personally produce, but if you're going to build a team, at that point, it's not all about you, and you have to take that accountability on as well.
Yeah, you gave some great stuff there. So let me separate those two, the mindset things you gave us and then what you gave us about the office. So for people who obviously, a lot of people on here who are at that level, they understand what you're saying when you got staff in an office. One thing real quick, what do you feel like getting an office did for you and your group as a team? Like did that change the way you felt about the business? Did it? I mean, obviously, I know it's another bill, so it's like okay, we're getting serious now. But what did getting an office do for you and your team?
Yeah, really what it did, it built so much camaraderie. It's like, it's different when you want to go to, like I had an office that was like, it was just my office, like, you know what I mean? So like no one knew if I was there or not, right? But when you have an office and it's your office and your group is there, now you're building team camaraderie. Now you're able to help the agent who doesn't know why they're getting no-showed at every appointment. Now you're able to listen and hear other things and have other people in there. And now what else you're picking up is people start to feel confidence because, like, Jason might not think he's good on the phone, but then, he's dialing in front of, Wayne, and Wayne's like, oh my God, you just helped me so much. Now Wayne booked 6 appointments and Jason's like, I think I could build a team.
Yeah.
It builds belief. And more importantly, it unifies your team and it gives you a home base and a home ground to feel good about and take pride in. And it actually, it shows you that this is a real business, so
Right.
That's what it really has done for my team, is really kind of put everybody together. And my whole group isn't in Massachusetts, but at the same time, it's like when people can see that camaraderie on the team, even if they're not physically there, they can feel it. They want to be a part of it, right? So that's kind of what the office has done.
Yeah.
For
It's
me.
so many positives, both for your team and, like we're about to get to your second, your staff. Because obviously they see the agents coming in, your agents see them. It builds a good team spirit. And it's just so practical. We're humans, we're social creatures. And, COVID, I think one of the negatives of it is it kind of, it revealed one, how we don't need to be together to do our jobs. But I think at the same time, a lot of us do it on a much higher level when we have that interaction. And so, wow, that's really good insights. And I don't know if as far as the way you describe it, helping your team, I don't know if I'd heard it said that exact way before. That's really strong. And then, so going into your staff, so what staff did you start with, and where are you now? How did you start your staff and grow it?
Yeah, so I don't even like to call my sister staff because she's not, but essentially that's where I started with my staff.
Okay.
And from there, we had, and one thing I learned the hard way, and I had learned through other companies too, is the first person you hire for whatever role it may be in your staff, it doesn't always mean they're going to be the best fit. You want to, set the proper expectations and goals, etc. But just really realizing, like, it's not always going to work out. And I learned that kind of the hard way. I was always really just kind of like super nice, like, oh, like she's really nice, let's keep her around. It's like, okay, but she's been here for 6 months and got no results. You know what I mean? Like, you got to do something.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
right now, what my staff looks like is having 2 recruiters as well as somebody who does all of, like, our TikTok, which might sound a little bit different, but if you're not using TikTok and you're on here and you're building your business, just use TikTok. It works.
Yeah, no, we literally just started that, and like it was so funny because Caleb was like coming around the corner and we're doing some stupid TikTok and we had like some dollar bills, we're like throwing in the air. He's like, what are you doing? He's like, trust me. Like this
It
is
works.
yeah, it works. So no, that's really cool. And then last thing, and this is the thing I really want to highlight, because obviously one of the biggest things that changed for you and obviously went to your team is that mentality switch that you said you took, where, and we hear this preached so much in Family First Life, talking about Paul shoot all the time and about Sean Mike, but about being selfless, about taking yourself out of the equation, putting other people first. And it sounds like that was maybe one of the biggest things that you did, where obviously you had been taking care of yourself and doing really well for a while. You knew how to write 300,000-400,000, And the decision to, and I love this so much about Family First Life, especially when I said we're not going to say names, but that first company that we both came from, one of the things I hated about it is with the huge override, the decision to build a team was all about you, right? Because you were going to be taking advantage of other people. You know, you were going to have this huge override for them. You were going to be making money. They were going to be broke. And so the decision to decide make a team, I kind of joke about it this way with Mark Mead. When I was there, I was like, I felt like the insurance industry, like we were making wine and people were grapes. You know, we bring them in, we smash them, we get the juice out, we throw them out, and it's time for more grapes. But it was just, I hated it. That's why I never saw myself being at a company long term. But what I love, and one of the things I love about our company so much, is exactly what you said. The decision to build a team was not, what is this gonna do for me? Of course, and though, yeah, we all have those motivations, you know, thinking about our future and our family, but you switched your mindset to be like, hey, it's not all about me. And I'm going to be doing this for other people. I'm going to make some sacrifices and start giving more into this. And obviously anyone on here that's building a team that's paying for that office, that staff, those recruiting leads, you know, putting leads many times in agents' hands to help them get started. If you see, you know, some talent or something there, you really are, you're paying yourself a lot less and you're working way harder. So talk to us just a little bit about that, the changes that you made starting to grow a team. Like, and I hope that's not too general of a question. Like kind of doing the, like the practical steps of that mentality switch.
Yeah, for sure. So again, it definitely took both like mindset and actual physical like actions of, okay, do this, do this, do this. What I really needed to realize was I had to believe in myself, because if I didn't believe in myself, that I could grow a team or that I could write enough production to afford, you know, this lead, that lead, and help my agents out, then I wasn't going to feel confident about building the team. What I had to realize was whether I was issuing, you know, at that point, you know, 10 grand a month, you know, or I was issuing 60 grand a month, you know, what was that going to look like financially? But what I knew was I could issue 50 grand a month consecutively. I could issue, you know, and it's like anybody on here, we have the resources to do that. I don't care where you live, but I don't care who you are. Like we all have the ability to do that. It's about wanting to do it. So my mind changed from, okay, you're going to go out and you have to write 40, 50, 60 grand a month, because you're setting an example. First of all, and if you want to tell people that they can write 50 grand a month and you're not writing 50 grand a month, that makes no sense. So my mindset was really kind of, you know, if you want top producers within your group, you need to be a top producer, at least for a little while. And the mentality of just kind of the money aspect, it's like, okay, it's like leads. If you really look at recruiting leads like they're an expense, that's confusing to me at this point. At the time, it was like, oh, well, you know, the ZipRecruiter costs this much, and like, you know, these, like, it's like, then I was like, you know what? Paul literally called me. He was like, who cares? That's what he said to me. He said, can you explain to me why you're doing all the, like this like math out? And I was like, well, I just want to make sure. He's like, make sure you can afford what? Like, look where you look at the opportunity you have in front of you. Unless you just don't go to work at all, then you're going to be okay. So really what my mindset was, okay, any recruiting lead I'm investing in, just like when we buy leads for the field, I know I'm going to have an ROI. It's just a delayed ROI. And I have to be okay with that. But at the same time, it wasn't about just the money at that point. Like you said, like, you know, all of us, we could live off of personal production. It was about how many other people can I expose to this opportunity? Because I've been in 2 other companies before this that, like, in my opinion, just weren't, they weren't a good fit for people. They weren't looking out for the actual agent. So when I could put myself aside and say, okay, you know, what does this person need? Like, I always ask people 3 questions, and Sean asked me these questions, you know, what do you need to make? What do you want to make? And what are you willing to sacrifice to get there? And I think that based off those three questions, we can usually, how our agents are answering those, we can usually have a good idea of where they're at.
Right.
And other sacrifices such as, like I remember team call. It sounds like, now it sounds so funny. I was like, Paul, like, what do you mean I should have a team call? Like you're like, basically you're bugging. I have like 10 people on my team. He's like, okay, like, well, then you start with 10, and it's going to grow. It's going to grow. And if I hadn't ever, got uncomfortable or made that sacrifice or had been willing to do just a small step, like a team call, it's like, you just don't know. And really just trying to put myself to the side, even in terms of comp. I don't like to have a big spread on people. Like,
Sure.
I don't want a big spread. I don't want a big chargeback if they don't work out. I don't want more than 10 points max on anybody. It makes me uncomfortable. And throughout my organization too, kind of that same rule is not rule, but I mean, I encourage it, I should say. However, my mindset really just changed from you're going to do this now or you're not going to do it at all. So decide. And I just decided. And I think that once you actually make that decision, kind of going back to what I said in the beginning, when you kind of have like only a couple of breakthrough moments Paul talks about, like that was definitely a breakthrough moment for me, because once you start doing it, it's like when you first go in the field and you actually realize, oh my God, I can write production. It's the same thing when you start building a team. Oh my God, my new agents are actually writing business. Like, so it's like that feeling, like there's not a better feeling than that. Like there's not a better feeling of, hearing like people on my team saying like, okay, I was in, 20 grand of debt 2 months ago and I don't have debt. And, I was able to pay for my kids' braces out of pocket, like just like an example that was earlier, but, those things will change, or they should hopefully change how you're looking at this business. And again, going back to it, it's not all about you. Like it's not, it's about them. So
yeah, you man, you gave me exactly what I asked for. Talking about practical steps, just one, what you said was so gold about the delayed gratification of team building, because as an agent you get so used to, especially with Family First Life, working with like carriers like Americo, like where I go write business today, tomorrow I'm getting a notification about how much money I made. It's instant. There's nothing's delayed. But when you go out and you're gonna write, you're gonna buy recruiting leads, you're gonna get that person on the phone after a week or two, and then you're gonna get them taking their tests, and then through contracting, and then figuring everything out, and then 2-3 months later you have that person hit, sometimes, or maybe sometimes even longer if they were just dragging their feet for whatever reason. And so you gotta be okay with that. You gotta, like you said, you have to build in the same confidence in yourself that just like I know if I go spend money on insurance leads, I'm gonna write business, I'm gonna make money. You have to have that same confidence as an agency builder. And so that's what you did. And then too, man, I love what you said so much, that new feeling. And it doesn't get more real than that, of seeing someone you brought in and coached, and you've seen their struggle and you see them succeed. Your joy now, it's not, you're not coming from how much money do I have in my bank account, how much did I write. It's you're directly linked to the success of your agents. So when they are successful, you feel good. And that's the most healthy relationship I can imagine. Like where you're just like, hey, I win when you win. Because not only is that a very healthy environment, it builds so much trust. Yeah, like you get an agent that is, man, they see how much you're investing in them and how much you want them to win. How is that agent not going to trust you 150%? 145%, Family First Life, not 100, but how are they not going to absolutely trust you, when you are investing in them that way? Wow, that's so good. So start from where you started with, like you said, those 10 agents, starting your agency. What was your volume looking like then? And what does your volume look like now? What did you do when you started? And what did you do in July last month?
Yeah, so when I got started, it was basically like me and like I was like hitting sales manager like on my own personal pen, maybe. And like two other people were writing like, like 15 or, maybe depending on the month, like 5 to 15,000. Now my team is issuing well, last month we issued about 400,000, and we're growing. So it's exciting.
Yeah.
It's just, it's funny that it's like, that was 1 year. Like, and I know that, like I'm not, my organization isn't right in 5 million, but at the same time, it's like in 1 year, like your organization could be writing so much. And especially like, just like right now with Family First Life, the structure, the different resources, everything that we have, other companies, like they don't have it. And we just have to really kind of like take a step back and think about that sometimes, that in 1 year, your whole like trajectory of your life can literally change. So I hope
Oh my gosh. I mean, what you're talking about is incredible. So you went from being a top producer, writing $500,000 or under 400,000 dollars of business a year, to last month your agency did that. You know what it would take you a year to achieve. And it's a beautiful thing, because you obviously, that's $400,000 that was paid in commissions, that was paid out to those agents. That represents hundreds of families that they served. And like, this is just such an incredible opportunity, where in the act of being a blessing to our clients, you can be a blessing to your agents, and that blesses, you all well as well. It smiles all around. Everyone's happy. And so that's, man, that is so cool. So what is your goal for the rest of 2021? What are we shooting for by the end of the year?
Yeah, so by the end of the year, I'm very confident that we'll be issuing 1.5 million. I know that that's a far shot. However, we have a lot of good things taking place, and I have a lot of confidence within the group. So 1.5 million by the end of 2021.
Well, hey, if your agents are half as selfless and motivated as you are, I'm 100% sure that you'll hit it. So you are crushing it. Well, hey, thank you so much for your time. I know you're got a lot going on, and so I want to be very respectful of your time. I think the last thing I would ask is, we got a handful of agents on here. Many more are going to watch this over YouTube or Facebook or social media and training. And we're all over the place. We're agency builders, we're agents who are, anywhere in between, from beginning, maybe just wrote their first 20, 30K a month, maybe just wrote their first policy, people who are waiting. What would be a parting shout, something that you would think would be a blessing to everyone in there, from top to bottom and everything in between?
Yeah, so what I would definitely just I guess like leave everybody with, and I think that we could all take something from this, and we've all probably heard it. If you're not hiring, it's selfish. And I say that because this might not work out for you, whoever you are, but this might be what changes your best friend's life. This might be what changes, your aunt's life, your cousin's life, whoever's life. So it's not about selling people. You don't need to sell Family First Life. Like, you literally just need to send somebody the BDM, have them watch it. You're inviting them to an opportunity. You're not being like aggressive, just like when you're in the home, like it's already closed. You just have to go there. They have to like you and trust you. So same thing. If you're scared to share the opportunity, it's like you're just sharing the opportunity like nonchalant. Like, hey, like, take a look at this. It's like the BDMs on Facebook. If like we're not sharing those, it's like, why? Like, so I would just say utilizing, social media and making sure that everybody around you knows what you're doing for work, because it could truly change somebody's life, and it could change your life doing it with that person. I always like to say you don't have an agent till an agent has an agent, because it's accountability. So it helps you as the agent, and it helps, whoever you're bringing in to Family First Life, because the only way to fail here is if you don't work. Like, you just have to work hard and care about people. So
Yeah.
I hope that answers your question.